If we ride our bikes on the road, we all need insurance, but be honest, do you really know where that money you spend each year actually goes? I asked on the BikeSocial Test Team Facebook page what you want to know about bike insurance, so I could put those questions to Vince Chaney, Managing Director of Bennetts. So Vince, the most common question we get asked is, why has my insurance premium gone up this year despite me having full no claims bonus?
Thank you, John. I think it would be really helpful to start with to have a brief explanation of how insurance works. Essentially, it's a contract between you, the customer, and an underwriter to put you back into the situation you were before a claim takes place. And that claim might be a theft of your bike or an accident that you may cause. And premiums are calculated based on two things, really: the likelihood that a claim is going to take place and the value of a claim, the cost of settling that claim. So in the past year, there's been a number of things that have happened across the insurance market in general that have led to prices going up. The first one is that there's a sort of normal cost of claims increasing, and so that might be parts or services that we use in order to put you back in the situation you were prior to the claim. That's typically around 5 to 6% a year. And obviously with Brexit and a lot of parts going from abroad, those prices fluctuate quite a lot at the moment. The government's also on a drive to increase insurance premium tax, and over the past few years we've seen that pretty much double. And finally, in the last year, probably the biggest impact has been something called the Ogden rate. And what that's used for is it's used to determine the cost of long-term claims. So if you have an injury that might affect a rider for a number of years, then the value of that claim is calculated using this Ogden rate. And that's increased claims in its own by about 15% in the past year. So overall, we've seen the cost of policies go up somewhere between 20 and 25%. And therefore, it's inevitable, really, that most people will have seen an increase in their premiums this year.
Okay, but why can policy prices from the same underwriter often be so different?
So the insurance market works in very similar ways to the way that, for example, broadband or mortgage and many other services work, in that they'll offer introductory discounts for the first year to attract new customers. And obviously when the policy comes up for renewal, that introductory discount may no longer be in place. And also, if it's not offset by, say, extra experience or age of the bike, then it can result in the customer's premium being higher at renewal than it would be when they first came to the broker.
So when taking out a policy, why is it often cheaper to use a comparison website?
So I think firstly, it's not always cheaper to get a policy on a price comparison website. They operate with a very specific set of questions that they use across all of their brokers and underwriters. And they may not be a perfect set of questions to provide the best price for an individual broker. And for example, they're not usually very specific about your previous experience if you have a new bike. And speaking to your broker directly, you can quite often get a better price with that being taken into account, answering the broker's specific questions.
Okay.
I think secondly, price comparison sites are fantastic at comparing as you would expect price. They're not very good at comparing features or really telling you whether the cover actually meets your needs, which is why they'll always pass you on to a broker before you actually buy a policy. So I just urge everybody to have a look at your policy documentation, any information that's available, and the features within the product to make sure that it's right for you before you buy it.
Well, most of our questions revolved around value for money. So one person did ask us, why do insurance companies spend so much money sponsoring big events and riders when surely they should just spend that money on giving us cheaper policies?
I think part of any business is about bringing new customers into a brand and also retaining the customers that we have. And we're able to offer cheaper prices because of the number of customers that we have. So it's important that we keep adding more customers to our business. And sponsorship is a very effective way of us doing that, coupled with the fact it allows us to give something back to British motorcycling, something that we at Bennetts believe is really important. And we know it's appreciated by our customers. I think if we weren't to do that, we would be spending the money in other ways, whether that would be digital advertising or leaflets and flyers and so on. And we just think this is a better way of doing it. And also being involved in sponsorships and events and with riders allows us to provide experiences to say thank you to our customers for their loyalty to us. And we take a large number of customers to each of the, most recently the BSB rounds we'll be taking people, and we think it's a really good way of helping people to experience motorcycling and to get something back for their policy.
Yeah, yeah. So moving away from prices, we were asked why insurance companies need to know about all the modifications on your bike, and then why you sometimes charge more for them.
Modifications are a very important part of motorcycling for many riders. And in fact, the majority of bikes have some form of modification from the standard manufacturer's build. If you remember, the cost of a policy is based on the likelihood that a claim is going to take place and the value or the cost of settling that claim. And modifications can affect both of those things. If you have a performance enhancing modification to your bike, say for example you bored out the engine or something like that, then that might increase the likelihood of an accident or likelihood of a claim. And similarly, if you had a race replica, for example, it might be more attractive to thieves and therefore increase the risk of theft. Equally, it may cost more money to actually settle those claims should they take place in the first place. Not all modifications do add to the price of a policy, but certainly those that enhance the value or the attractiveness to thieves do.
Well, we had somebody ask why their policy isn't cheaper when they have an aftermarket NCAN fitted to their bike, when it'd be so much more expensive to replace an OE NCAN.
So an NCAN may well be cheaper to replace from aftermarket rather than from an OEM, and we do see this with even the likes of Akropovich and Honda parts direct from Honda can be more expensive. But it's not just about the cost of the claim, as I said. It may have a bearing on the attractiveness of the bike. And frankly, a standard, fairly vanilla NCAN versus a nice carbon weave, dressed up NCAN might make the bike more attractive to thieves, and therefore it can increase the cost of the claim or the likelihood of a claim taking place.
Okay. We also had people ask why they charge more for Pillion cover. Is that fair?
So it's a really good question, and it's a little bit complicated, but I'll do my best to answer it. So some underwriters do exclude pillions altogether from their policies, so they won't insure anybody who's carrying a pillion. And also others may charge an additional premium for it. So if you're talking to a broker, you might find that your first choice underwriter, the very cheapest, doesn't accept pillions. So that in itself will mean you go to the next price, which will increase it. In the event of an accident involving a pillion, our insured customer would be responsible for any injuries or damage to equipment that pillion may incur as a result of that accident. And quite often, as you may be aware, injuries involving motorcycles can be quite significant, and so the cost of those claims can be high, and hence many underwriters will charge a bit more for carrying pillion passengers.
Now, something that seems to aggravate people quite a lot is additional charges. Why do insurance companies want more money to change the address of your house?
So I think there's a couple of things that may help with the answer to this question. The very first one is that we talked about the likelihood of a claim, and moving house or changing your garaging arrangements can affect the likelihood of a claim taking place. So they can affect the risk. And insurers will price a risk based on their experience. So if you go from, say, one postcode to another, there may be more thefts in that postcode, and therefore that can affect the premium that you pay. The second thing is that your broker or insurer may levy a charge for making a change. And these change fees, amendment fees, are in place because we believe that it's fairer to charge people who use the service rather than spreading that cost across every single one of our customers, irrespective of whether they call us to make changes during the year.
Now, you mentioned postcodes. Why do there seem to be cases where somebody's premium goes up when they've moved house to what they think is maybe a quieter, safer location?
So again, insurance pricing premiums are based on the experience of that underwriter. So again, there could be a couple of things that play into that. Firstly, a nice rural location may result in lower risk of theft. It may actually be increased risk of theft because fewer people about gives thieves more time to break into a garage, for example, which they wouldn't risk in a busy environment. And secondly, it will change the roads that somebody is riding on. So country lanes can be fantastic fun to ride down, but they tend to have worse visibility, poorer road surfaces that can make them more dangerous and therefore increase the likelihood of a claim taking place.
Okay, so if a claim's made, why is it sometimes the case that people seem to think they've not been paid out what they believe that their motorcycle's actually worth?
I think we'll go back to that what insurance is for question. It's designed to put you back in the place you were, the position you were in before the claim took place. Now, the insurance industry will provide a price that's based on industry benchmarks and experience of settling claims. What I would say is that if you have evidence that bikes the same as yours have been sold for different amounts recently, or that you have reason to want to discuss the valuation with your insurer, I'd encourage you to go and get that evidence. It will make that conversation a lot more straightforward.
Okay, so most people who've got motorcycles have got cars, they're drivers. Why do insurance companies penalise bikers for an accident they might have had in a car?
Firstly, insurance companies aren't out there to penalise anybody for past experience. What they're trying to do is calculate the right price based on the likelihood of a claim taking place and the value of that claim. And whilst they may not seem related because they're different insurance products, the statistics suggest that somebody who has been involved in a car accident is a higher risk on their bike, and so the likelihood that they're going to have a claim on their bike is higher if they've been involved in some kind of car accident in the past.
Okay, we also had a few people ask if insurance companies are transparent enough with their fees. Are they?
I think it's important to bear in mind that we're not allowed to have any hidden charges, and certainly there are regulations in place to make sure that you're able to find out what fees and charges are involved in your policy before you take that policy out. Now, as with any industry, some companies are more upfront and open than others, and more trustworthy, and certainly within Bennetts we like to provide any prospective policyholder with all of the information before they take out their policy. And I just encourage any customer to take advantage of that, read the policy documentation. You can usually find samples online to just check what the fees and charges will be, and think about your circumstances. If you know you're going to move house, if you know you're going to change your bike, then that may change your opinion of the policy to start with.
That makes sense. Theft is a major issue for motorcyclists at the moment. What role is the insurance industry playing in trying to reduce this?
I think firstly it's worth bearing in mind that motorcycle crime isn't in anybody's interests, and we all have an interest in reducing bike thefts in particular. Now, we do work with both the Motorcycle Industry Association's Master Scheme and a number of brokers also involved with various police constabularies in initiatives predominantly in London to reduce motorcycle crime. The other thing that we do as part of our policies and premiums to encourage greater security will be that certain devices, certain security methods will attract a discount on the price. And if you are thinking of installing more security, it's worth calling your insurance company because they can help you tell you which of those will reduce the premiums. And it's usually a pretty good indicator of how effective those devices are.
Now, do you think people trust insurance companies?
I think as with any market, there are some providers who are more trustworthy than others, and you can get a pretty good flavour of that based on online reviews or social media these days. So I'd encourage prospective customers to go and have a look at those sites to get a flavour for how those companies are perceived. I think the insurance industry as a whole doesn't always do a lot to improve its reputation, and I really hope this interview helps to explain why things are as they are, and particularly some things such as fees and price increases, for example, why those take place and why those things exist in insurance. At Bennetts we're always looking to improve what we do, and we really welcome feedback from either our customers or other insurance customers out there to help us improve the way that we work and how our products work.
Well, thanks very much, Vince. There's a lot to take in there, and I'm sure that insurance is going to continue to be a very emotive subject. So we've got a series of articles on insurance explaining the background of all the processes on BikeSocial.co.uk, so head over there and take a look and you can find out more. And I just add, Vince mentioned bike and scooter security. We've tested a lot of locks, chains, disc locks, everything on BikeSocial.co.uk, so have a look over there and you'll find the most in-depth reviews. So until next time, thanks for watching. We'll see you again.